always walk you guys through your second essay. This essay is going to be a comparative essay, which looks at different authors and different poems that you read in this unit. So you guys read a lot of different poems, and there are a lot of connections you can make between these poems and these authors in terms of, all the things we studied: structure, voice, theme, etc. So you're going to write an analytical essay over the prompt, essentially, that says choose two of the poems that you read in this unit from two different authors. Compare and contrast those works in terms of the literary analysis. So use all the materials that you have in this unit to help guide your analysis. So you guys could choose poems which seem to naturally fit together, or you could choose poems that maybe are unexpected in terms of how you pair them together. So for example, something like, I'm not sure, The Flea and A Valediction Forbidding Morning could go well together. I Hear America Singing could also go very well with something like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, guys. Maybe Thing from English B, that could actually go well together. So there's pairings you could naturally make together, or you could put things together that maybe don't seem to a first peer to go naturally together, but you kind of show how they are compared and contrasted. So you want to show how they're similar and different in terms of the literary elements, style, theme, voice, imagery, etc. Use the graphic organizer that you created to help you organize your thoughts. You are required to use at least 3 credible sources to support your claims. This is the longest essay you'll do for me. It's 3 to 4 pages in length. That's not very long. So adding in these additional sources will help you, flesh out your main ideas, support your analysis, and make sure that you're, again, pulling in credible sources. So these should be, .edu or PBS or something like that. And they can talk either about the poems or about the authors behind them, if that's part of your analysis. Everything is going to be checked for plagiarism, requires standard MLA, of course. Everything needs to be, make sure you write to the minimum. You can always write more if you like. If you don't, you'll lose points, and then a bibliography as well. So there should be at least 5 entries on your bib. As I noted, we have a lot of choices of poems to discuss. Choose the ones that really spoke to you the most, the ones that you most enjoyed, and think about the comparisons you can make between them, both similarities and differences. One thing I want to make sure is clear is that you should be using the terminology that you've learned in this unit and the previous unit in your analysis. So make sure that you're using, literary terminology related to voice or syntax or tone or figures of speech or whatever it might be. And try to keep your focus narrow. So what you don't want to do is choose 9 different literary elements to discuss across these 2 poems. I would suggest at most 3. 3 typical kind of main ideas, 3 areas for you to compare them. And it's really, really important that you try and elevate the argument, the structure of your argument, by, instead of doing 1 paragraph for one author, 1 paragraph for another author, and then you go back to the first and then back to the second. A way to kind of elevate that argumentative structure is to have a central idea. So I would suggest choose, as I said, 3 literary elements and compare and contrast them across those literary elements. So within 1 paragraph, you should have, for example, you would say, in Theme for English B, he says this about, this concept of this theme, right? If you said this, there's a similar theme across, say, My Mistress' Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun, and I'm not sure, To the Virgins to Make Much of Time. So you're going to put those together. If you were going to say that there's a similar theme across them about carpe diem and seizing love and life, and and all that it has to offer in a day, that might be one main idea. And then you would talk about how My Mistress' Eyes says this, and To the Virgins says this, and here's the analysis around it. Here's the evidence, the quotes directly from the poems which show these elements. And then you move on to the next main idea, which might be the structure. And you might want to talk about the rhyme scheme in both of these poems. And then you would say the rhyme scheme here is this, and the rhyme scheme here is this, and this is why they're similar or different. Here's why that matters. Here's the evidence for both of these poems that shows that. And then your third main idea might be symbolism in both of these poems, or imagery. You might say imagery in both of these poems and why imagery is important, and particular imagery. And you'll pull out evidence that shows both of that, and then you'll close out your argument. So that is a more elevated structure that I would suggest that you use, rather than having it be one paragraph for one author, one paragraph for the next poem, one paragraph for the next poem, one paragraph for the next poem. So again, choose good evidence from the poems, which shows your audience what you're talking about, just like you did in your first essay. And then also have solid quotes from your sources, which help support your analysis. I might even suggest, if you know which poems you might want to talk about, or you have ideas as far as the elements you want to talk about, start by looking at your source material, see what it is that they say about those elements or those poems, and that might help guide your own analysis as well. So as I noted, that's what I was saying right here. Make sure that you compare ideas across both poems rather than having a separate paragraph for each poem. So think about some things that you can think about. Think about how the works connect in terms of theme or other major literary elements like symbolism, structure, voice. How are the structures similar or different, and how does that change or impact meaning for the audience? For example, if you chose To the Virgins and you chose, I'm not sure, General View of the Sex Situation, those might go together, and they're for entirely different audiences based on the time period they were written in, right? So think about how that might impact its meaning. And then how do the differences and similarities between the authors or the historical situation actually impact the framework around that work? So what I just said, essentially, right? How does something written in the 1920s, 30s, 40s compared to something maybe written in the modern age, or something written in the early modern age? How does that actually change the meaning or impact the work? And your answer might be that it actually has the same or similar theme, even though it was written hundreds of years apart. So you're going to be assessed in making sure you have a fully developed argumentative thesis statement, good analysis of the works and its major concepts, good evidence to support your claims, proper page length MLA formatting, proper number and use of sources with citations, a fully developed essay structure, which means you have a thesis in your introduction, main ideas with evidence from both your primary and your secondary sources, and a conclusion. And you have a good organization of your ideas across thematic concepts rather than a section for each author. And in this essay, you're going to have your graphic organizer, which is actually going to count to, I believe, 20 points. Maybe it's 15. I could be wrong. 15 or 20 points towards your essay. And then you also have your final essay component being the remaining points of your essay. So as long as you complete your graphic organizer, it should be an easy 20 or 15 points towards your essay grade as well. So if you have questions, let me know, but otherwise go ahead and move on and choose, again, like I said, the things that are of most interest to you, the poems that are most interest to you from this unit as you start to write.